Government affects where we live, where we work, how our children learn, and how our communities grow. Yet too often, the decisions that shape our lives happen without our understanding or participation. That's where Zlography comes in. Welcome to Zlography, where politics is broken down and citizens learn how to govern their government. Hosted by Debz, Zlography examines American politics through a Caribbean lens because informed citizens build stronger communities. This is Zlography. Welcome to Zlography, where politics is broken down so citizens can learn to govern their government. I'm your host, Debs. Today, we're taking a closer look at one of the races that will help shape the future of Georgia. The House District 97 seat became open after Representative Ruwa Roman chose to run for the Georgia State Senate, creating an opportunity for new leadership in our district. As a resident of House District 97, this election is personal to me. Like many of my neighbors, I want to know who is asking for our vote, what has prepared them to serve, and how they plan to represent us under the Gold Dome. This conversation isn't about endorsement. It's about giving voters the information they need to make informed decisions on Election Day. Today, I'm pleased to welcome Jyot Singh, candidate for Georgia House District 97. Jyot, thank you for joining us on Zlography.
Thank you, Deborah, for having me. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. You're a rock star constituent and powerhouse in our district, in our county, and excited to chat with you.
It's a pleasure having you. So let's jump into it. Before we discuss your campaign, I'd like viewers to get to know you. Who is Jyot Singh? Tell us your upbringing, your family, and the experiences that shape your values.
Yeah, so I'm Jyot Singh. I'm a son of Gwinnett, a son of this district. Went to middle school and high school in Gwinnett County. I'm a proud product of Gwinnett County Public Schools, and I've been an organizer for the past 10 years, which I've turned into my small business now, based in the district. So 2016, we have this Trump guy running. I'm 17 years old. Right now I'm 27. And my high school actually made us do internships. And I went to a STEM high school, but my conscience craved more than that. I wanted to be a public defender after working at the Federal Defender for a summer. And I walked into the presidential campaign opening in 2016. Because I said, this Trump guy, we got to do something about him. And I was looking for a senior year internship, so I literally just walked into the Hillary Clinton HQ opening, their state office in Atlanta, and I said, I'm looking for work. Showed up to a volunteer phone bank. They recognized me. They said, all right, go man the photo line for Tony Goldwyn. He was the President Fitz from Scandal, was our celebrity, the surrogate celebrity guest that day. And I just started showing up. From them training me on how to manually enter all the paper call sheets. I was doing like 10,000 paper sheets. And, they thought it would take me a couple of weeks. I knocked it out in a couple of days because I was very motivated to make my impact, do my small part in this historic effort to help elect the first woman president, which unfortunately did not happen, but we'll get there soon enough. We'll make you president, Debs. But I fell into this world and I never looked back and fell into this world with a desire to make an impact and fight for a future where future families won't have to go through what I did, what my family did. I grew up as a kid without health care at some points in my life because our Republican leadership in Georgia has historically made cuts to health care. I grew up as a kid who saw the impacts of education cuts growing up because that's what our Republican leadership does. They cut health care and education. So I stayed the course, fell into this world, never looked back. I was a full scholarship kid at Yale University. Coming from an under-resourced household, I was very fortunate to gain that opportunity, pursue a world-class education around world-class educators, and continue building with mentors who have invested in me, and worked on the Hill for a United States Senator, worked in a district office for a United States Senator, so got to see the political side and the official government side, and kept on working on campaigns in college. I was always working 3-4 jobs. I was bartending, catering, running the events in my residential college, and working on campaigns as well. Just making ends meet and making a change at the same time. Even after I graduated, I had that inner fight with myself that every junior and senior in college does. Do I go to Wall Street or McKinsey or Bain or BCG and become a consultant for 2 years, 3 years, and then do what I want to do? And even law school, right? But looking at, my personal desire to make a change and start working, growing up as a poor kid, start making some money and keep on supporting my family as I had been at that point, I decided to just stick to political campaigns and organizing efforts. I told myself and talked a lot about this with mentors that if I love what I do, everything else will follow. And I worked on campaigns in the summer. I was working 60, 80 hours a week, and it did not feel like work to me. Connecting with people, building movements, being part of those movements, whatever small part I was playing. So I could continue the course, worked on statewide campaigns, worked for the political operation of a United States senator, was one of the 2 press secretaries on Governor Pritzker's election in 2022 for the Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton, who's about to be our next U.S. Senator from Illinois. And then started my firm here in Petrie Corners in Norcross, where I've grown up. And even at our firm, we're a movement building firm. I call myself the chief change maker, not a CEO. We work for campaigns, large and small, national efforts, lots of Georgia and Gwinnett based work, where we manage the renewal of $1.5 billion of public school funding for Gwinnett County schools. We've worked to help elect state legislative candidates and elected officials from statewide efforts when the presidential campaigns came in 2020 and the coordinated campaign, and lots of clients that was servicing were part of those efforts, helping elect Senators Warnock and John Ossoff, and especially those runoffs where we had a budget and a client where we were talking to just rural women of color. There's 400,000 rural women of color this client identified, and a lot of the work I've done is centered around turning out low propensity voters, communities of color, people who look like us and don't really vote. Lots of Asian American Pacific Islander coalition building and work we've done, especially in Gwinnett and Georgia, working with the Asian American Advocacy Fund based right outside our district, but also in Norcross. But this is what I've done. This has been my life's ethos for the past 10 years since I was 17, and I still consider myself young. When I was younger.
You're still young.
Yeah.
And that's quite a resume.
Exactly. Yeah, this is what we've been doing, Debs. So this is a continuation of that.
One thing, I could never be president. I was not born like you here in the United States. I had the pleasure of being an island girl. I was born in Sun, Sea, and Sand in Antigua, in the Caribbean. Hopefully you'll visit it one day.
You gonna take me?
Definitely will. For R&R after the whole campaign.
Yeah.
You grew up here in Gwinnett County and later attended Yale University. How did those experiences shape your perspective on leadership and public service?
My roots are here in Gwinnett. I grew up here my formative years, and every experience from growing up in the streets in Norcross to going to Yale University as a full scholarship kid because it was needs-based, and earning that and fighting for that and fighting for everything that our communities have had to across various fronts, it continued to reaffirm my belief that there needs to be people fighting for this change, right? You could be a Yale kid who goes to work in big tech, big finance, and not shading anyone. There's a role for all of us. It reaffirmed that my role was in public service. My role was in campaigns and organizing.
So you spent years behind the scene in politics and public service. What inspired you to step into the spotlight and become a candidate yourself?
When the seat opened up, it was a little bit out of the blue. And so this was never planned. And it was a totally different mindset I was operating in the past, let's say 2 years, almost 2 years now, when I started my firm several years ago and scaled it up full time after Governor Pritzker's race, and eventually was fortunate enough to help retire my parents and buy my parents a house, taking them out of the townhome we grew up in, and we're 4 minutes door to door right down the road from where I grew up most of my life.
Sweet.
And it's very grateful and very privileged to be able to say that. But moving out of that survival mindset to a point where my family and I are financially and personally stable. And after 17 years, we lost everything when the market crash in 08, 09.
Yes, I remember that.
My parents were real estate agents, immigrated here. My sister and I were born here, achieved the immigrant dream, bought a home, market crashed. They were real estate agents, lost their jobs. My dad was in his 60s at that point. It's hard to get a job when you've been doing something for 10, 15 years. And we lost our home to foreclosure. And we came to Georgia and Gwinnett, where community brought us out here to have a fresh start. So moving out of that mindset that I had been up until, recent timeline, it for the first time ever crossed my mind. I used to tell people I'm never running for office. I've seen too much. I like being behind the scenes. But I made some calls. I called my community, called my parents, called my mentors. I called other state representatives and legislators and mentors and movement leaders in Georgia, in Gwinnett County. People I've worked with and been in the trenches on the ground with for the past 10 years. People who have helped raise me and invest in me. And with their blessing and encouragement, it reaffirmed this was the right next step to take our collective work to the next level. I wouldn't do it any other way. If I did not have my community's blessing, I would not have done this. And that reaffirmed that this was the right step, and to take our advocacy and our track record of delivery to the next level.
You certainly have a track record, and this definitely seemed like the next step for you. However, politics can be demanding on both the candidates and their family. How has your family supported you through this campaign?
Oh, I mean, both of my parents have been my rocks. My mom is the superstar canvasser, slinging votes, and we're giving her, South Asian lists and Democrat lists and everything in between. And she's like, rallying the aunties and uncles in our community, and spreading the word, and reposting all my social media religiously. My dad, requesting donations and bundling money from his retired senior citizen community and friends, all the way down to family members and cousins I reconnected with after 20 years because they saw me in New York when I was a baby. Now they live in Arizona, and they're all donating. So my parents have been my biggest rocks. And took a break from working just to go all in. I wouldn't do it any other way, my family included. We were all in. And whether it's my campaign manager and team and volunteers at the house, mom is making food for everyone. We did a launch event where she made a bunch of Indian food, and we bought some Korean food, and we bought some Venezuelan food, and had a very diverse array of people attending, also food, and just making sure everyone's involved. So my parents have been my biggest rocks, and they're, just to start, there's been countless community members now being in the hot seat, that help keep me going.
Yeah, family is always your biggest strength, and they're your rock. I met your mom and dad, I think, when the announcement was made, and they were very happy and pleased that you've made it here. Representative Roman made a decision to run for Georgia's Senate, creating an open seat in District 97. What made you decide this was the right moment to seek office?
Yeah, it's an interesting time in battleground Georgia, where we flipped the state for President Biden in 2020 for the first time in, I believe, over 30 years. And I've been on the ground, been doing the work with amazing people out here dedicated to bringing in and ushering in a new era in Georgia, where government is putting people over politics and profit first. And as I was saying, I viewed this, my community viewed this as a next step for our collective advocacy and take it to the next level, to supercharge our efforts. And also, as a state House member, we're 10 seats away from flipping the state House. And I believe we can do it this year. I know we can do it this year. I'm seeing the ground game from the Democratic Party and the coordinated campaign. I'm seeing state House members and such inspiring individuals running for office and trying to flip some seats, where some of these seats are in Gwinnett County, the tier 1 battleground seats, where we lost Farouk's seat by around 70, 80 votes. We lost Michelle Kang flipping that seat, Matt Reeves' seat, the Republican incumbent, by around 600, 700 votes.
Michelle will be here next week.
She's absolutely amazing. And we're going to get her in. We're going to get Farouk back
Yes.
in. We're going to get Adam Cleveland in, trying to flip Scott Hilton's seat. We're going to get Beth Fuller in, 2-3 districts away from mine. So our area is also rapidly changing. Gwinnett County, our district, as you've seen, right? And I also think it's a great time to bring in representation that's been missing at the Gold Dome in Atlanta. There's never been an Indian American or a Sikh American elected to Georgia state government. I'm honored and privileged where my community believes in me, our district and community far and wide, to grant me the opportunity to represent us all and bring in that historic representation for Georgia.
We need candidates that represent us, candidates that are for the people and not for big business. So I am glad that you are here fighting for the people, fighting for District 97, which is my district. I am happy and honored to have you here in studio, and I can tell our audience, this is my representative. When you announce your candidacy, what message did voters want to hear?
There were 3 things we launched our campaign on, and just growing up in the community and experiencing the failures and gaps of government and the successes firsthand, those are the 3 things we heard at the door. Number 1, affordability. Our electricity, water, utility bills across the board are skyrocketing quarter after quarter. And while these companies are making billions of dollars in profit quarter after quarter, our healthcare premiums under the federal Medicaid cuts from the Trump administration have caused our premiums to skyrocket. Mine 5x, and then I had to switch to a shittier plan, pardon my French,
Yes,
where we're fighting for our lives out here. And as a kid who grew up without healthcare at some points in my life, I take this very personally. And then number 3, protecting our civil rights. The federal government under Trump 2.0, not like it was any better under Trump's first term.
Yes, it wasn't.
The federal government has been attacking our civil rights and marginalized communities across the board. From ICE terrorizing our streets, especially in Norcross, some of the highest concentration of Latino populations in Georgia. They were out and about just, 2-3 weeks ago for a couple of days.
Didn't they build an office right here in Norcross?
I don't believe so. Okay. There was some talk about that, but I don't believe it ever happened or came into fruition. But if it does come back on the table, we're going to go stop it. You and I are going to be outside that office protesting.
I'll pick it.
From the abortion ban in Georgia to immigration rights to voting rights, we are the heart of the civil rights movement and the voting rights movement in Georgia. And they're coming after us, whether it's raiding the Fulton County Elections Office or purging voter rolls, including in Gwinnett County over the past couple of years. Our civil rights as a whole are under attack, no matter where you come from. So those 3 things we consistently heard at the doors, knocking on almost 10,000 doors as a campaign, knocking on hundreds and hundreds of doors myself. That's what we campaigned on, the issues over the politics. And Republicans and Democrats alike actually supported us. I had Republicans texting me after I talked to them at the doors because I was supposed to talk to the 25-year-old young Democrat in the household, but let's say, just hypothetical example, the Trump mom or dad came to the door. And I talked to them. They saw my ads. They saw our mail. They liked the message. And we found common ground. Their health care is going out, above the roof too. So this is affecting all of us. And this is what we campaigned on. This is what we want our primary on.
Affordability is not a hoax. Trump is attacking the federal government too. The IRS, he's gutting it, and he has got a lot of the CDC and a lot of other federal organizations. So there is no one there to stop him. If we can elect people for the people to represent us, then we will have a small chance to combat his executive orders, his auto pen. So you've spent months talking with residents through District 97. What concerns are you hearing the most at those community meetings and campaign events?
Yeah, from Democrats, Republicans, whether you're black, brown, white, or blue, or green, or purple, everyone is feeling their pocketbooks emptying out. Eggs are through the roof. Gas is through the roof. Utilities are through the roof.
Wait a minute. Eggs didn't come down?
I'm still waiting on that one. I don't know about you,
I
but
thought on day one it was going to reduce in price.
we got to switch to some cheaper brands over here in our house. I don't know about y'all, but our eggs are not getting cheaper. But everyone is talking about that, right? Those kitchen table pocketbook issues that affect everyone. It cuts through the noise of the politics. These culture wars that the Republicans try to start, and then oftentimes win, unfortunately, right? It's easy to come after people who look like you and me, but it's not easy to defend Trump or defend the Republican administration in Georgia when you're feeling it and your bank accounts are draining.
Are there anything in any of those conversations that surprised you when you hear about it?
Surprise meaning, I grew up with friends from all walks of life.
Okay.
Went to a school with people from all walks of life. Given the fact that the concentration of that school is a upper tax bracket, the surprise was I heard Trumpers saying they, in no good conscience, could vote for this guy again. And for the first time ever, they were considering pulling a Democratic ballot.
Amen.
We had, I believe, around 200,000 more Democratic primary ballots cast this past May in the primary election than Republicans statewide. I have not looked into what the crossover effect was, right? But I believe it's there. And we got to look at the data, of course, and not just make assumptions. But that was a surprise. We had Trumpers from the first term, the second term, saying, I can't support this. And then they texted me after we talked. For the first time in however many years, I pulled a Democratic ballot just to vote for you, just to vote for lower bills because it's getting out of hand. They're seeing the cronyism and the corporate greed take over Washington, D.C., and we're feeling it in our pocketbooks.
What surprised me was that they did not know this to begin with. He did it before, but people made excuses saying it was COVID. COVID drove the prices up. Economics tells you differently. If you were elected, what are your top 3 priorities during your first legislative session?
Yeah, and one thing to add there, people also waited on Biden, right? The Democrats did the Republicans did a great job of messaging, and we lost that battle. But the war still continues, the war for our lives. We got to expand affordable healthcare access and fight for a future. Starting day one of session, I will fight for a future where we all have healthcare. We claim, we as in our state leadership, Republican governors, Republican administrators and legislators claim they have a 10, 12, $14 billion surplus over the past couple of years. And then they mail us a $250 check to keep us at bay if you're even eligible for the tax refund. Meanwhile, they're cutting healthcare. Meanwhile, all of our premiums have gone up. And that federal funding is no longer there at levels it used to be. So we have the money to fully fund our schools. We have the money to make sure more Georgians and eventually every Georgian has healthcare.
Clock that.
Clock that, girl.
Yep,
clock that.
Clock it.
So I don't want to hear any Republican saying, "How are we going to pay for that?" At the Gold Dome at the Capitol once we're in there together, Deborah. Like I don't want to hear none of that. The money is there. They're just choosing not to invest it in people and instead give it away in corporate tax giveaways.
Corporate greed.
And Governor Kemp over here is making money off of real estate deals with his donors, right? Blatant corruption. So the money is there. And we have to do a better job of messaging to everyday Georgians that our Republican leadership is lying to us. So we got to get Keisha in there. We got to keep Ossoff, of course, so he can fight for us in D.C. And we got to flip the state house so we can actually give Governor Lance Bottoms, and we're speaking into existence, Governor Lance Bottoms the tools to succeed with the state house that can actually pass legislation.
how can we combat corporate greed when there was a fire sale on the White House lawn? I think it's last year or a couple of years ago with the Tesla. It was a fire sale.
We are seeing across the board this past election cycle and last year where people are winning over corporations.
Amen.
Abdul El Sayed, the Democratic nominee for the United States Senate in Michigan, just beat his primary challenger, who had around $60 million compared to his $9 million from corporate PACs, from APAC, from outside influence, while Abdul El Sayed is a textbook, gold standard on how you win at the statewide level with people. Right.
I saw that, and I saw that he didn't take any of the APAC money from Israel, and he won with a large margin. I thought that was great because I also saw the smear ad campaigns that they did on both him and Mandami. So
yeah, same with Mayor Mamdani in New York City. Same with a lot of state legislators here in Georgia. People won with the grassroots movement and actually talking to people where they're at and talking to communities where they're at and revealing these corporate greed-filled lies by Republicans and Democrats alike. So people are waking up. It's our job, Debs, to make sure we're organizing, strategizing, and mobilizing. So that's how we win. That's how we'll continue to win and continue this wave of strong, progressive, non-corporate backed Democrats such as ourselves. We took no corporate PAC money, and our campaign talked to communities far and wide. We won every single precinct, and we're going to continue that in November. We're going to expand the Democratic margin of this district. We're going to drive up votes for Keisha. We're going to drive up votes for Senator John Ossoff and send him back to D.C., and then we're going to help flip some state house seats as well and support our fellow candidates.
Yeah, let's go and do it. So after you've won and you're in office, what would success look like for you for the next 2 years?
Yeah, so we serve 2-year terms. That's 2 legislative sessions, barring any special legislative sessions that the governor calls. And I would love to see a future where Democrats expand healthcare and actually lower our premiums.
Oh, yes.
I would love to see a future where we undo the abortion ban and give back reproductive freedoms to families and not let the government tell you and your family what to do with your doctor. I would love to see a future in those 2 years where we update the school funding formula that hasn't been touched in nearly 40 years and actually adequately and fully fund our schools based on, what that district needs.
That would be nice.
And if we get the state house, we get Governor Lance Bottoms, we flip a Senate seat or 2, I believe we'll get that done.
How do you plan to remain accessible and accountable after Election Day?
Yeah, great question, and something I took very seriously. Just like how we decide to run for office, this is exactly how we're going to govern. We're going to have a co-governance model, whether it's the people on the ground who supported us, the progressive organizations who backed us, and these groups that are fighting for the same future we all want. We're going to have a co-governance model. What does that mean? That means open door policies. That means committing to regular town halls. That means committing to regular meetings with these organizations. That means, I'm envisioning, and I'm going to talk to you more in detail about this once we're sworn in, a precinct captain, co-captain structure for the precincts in our district, have an interfaith outreach committee, have, events planning committee. So we're going to govern together, Debs. That's how we're going to do it. That's how it should be done.
That's how it should be done.
Yeah, so that's going to be our model. And I know a lot of state legislators who embodied that model and who will embody that model once they win in November. So that's how we're going to be accessible and accountable. Because it's not me at the table. It's all of us.
It's all of us.
Absolutely.
Voters have a choice in this election. Without criticizing your opponent personally, what do you believe distinguishes you as the best person to represent House District 97 or me?
Yeah, so we have a Republican opponent in the fall. I've not seen too much out there. I know there's a website I looked at several months ago. So not fully up to date in case this is outdated information, but the Republican Party as a whole is not fighting for all of us.
No, they're not.
So let's talk about them, right? They're giving tax breaks to their CEO friends. Trump and our governor alike are making millions and billions from insider deals. Meanwhile, they're cutting healthcare for children and working families alike. The Republicans are cutting funding for our schools in Georgia. What that means is our counties and our local tax burden increases, right? Meanwhile, they're all making money. They have these surpluses that they claim. So, if you're on the Republican line in this day and age, there's no hiding from that.
There's two types of people that support Trumps. Those that have money and the other are fools. Campaigns often focus on differences, but governing requires working with people who don't always agree. Tell me about a time you worked across differences to solve a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll edit one thing or suggest one, edit to what you just said. I don't believe people are fools. I believe they're misled. I believe they're lied to, from right-wing billionaires buying out local radio, media, newspapers, shutting down local journalism and rolling it up and through their private equity funds, buying out our housing, for example, right, as well through private equity funds. And then they spew these lies on national television and broadcast to millions of Americans. Okay. So people are waking up. It's our job to keep on organizing and mobilizing. And that includes working with people and Republicans. If we don't get the state house majority as Democrats, that means working across the aisle to actually deliver. I'm not here to grandstand, personally, right, and put my name out there. I'm there to deliver. And if we don't get the state house majority and don't get a governorship under Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, we're going to have to do some cross coalition, and bipartisan coalition building to actually deliver. So one example, I've worked on several nonpartisan issue-based campaigns. The East Bust, where we passed $1.4 billion over the next 6 years to renew that school funding. That's an issue where it was wildly popular. Almost 70% of the county voted for it. And over the past 30 years, it's renewed at pretty high levels. It's usually been over 60% in recent memory. I've worked on statewide referendums where we passed an independent redistricting commission in Virginia in 2020. I was part of that team, did a small part there. So there's issues, right? And the main goal, I believe, of any state legislator is to legislate and deliver. So, we're bringing that track record home. We're bringing that track record to the Capitol.
Trust in the government has declined. What will you do to earn and keep the trust of the people you represent?
Yeah, I think that co-governance model we touched on, I believe actually being able to say that I delivered something for our community with the community over the next 2 terms, 2 sessions, right, during our first term, that the work's going to speak for itself, right? But also talking to voters where they're at, going to churches, mosques, masjids, gurdwaras, going to community centers, senior centers, go to town halls, go to city council meetings. We've done it all during our primary, and we're going to continue to do it all. And that persistence and that continuity is going to be very important. And, not just going to, 1 or 2 news outlets that everyone, may or may not read. But, I'm a big believer in ethnic media. It's been a big part of my life's work, helping build ethnic media programs for organizations, for campaigns. So we're going to be in the Indian media. We want to be in the Latino media, Spanish media. We want to be in the Korean media. Duluth has such a significant Korean population. We want to be in the Caribbean media. We got to do it all. And I believe in more campaigns and organizations, and the Democratic Party and all governance should be doing this more.
Yes, they should. Georgia's immigrant communities continue to grow, including Caribbean Americans, South Asians, Africans, Latinos, and many others. How has your family story influenced your understanding of public service?
Yeah, my family story and my faith have definitely shaped my career of public service. So my grandpa actually, he just passed away this earlier this year
Oh, I'm so
at
sorry.
97 years young, and he actually used to work in government back in the day. He was the chief of staff to the Minister of Agriculture of India back in the day, and actually learned that specific tidbit at his funeral procession earlier this year. Right after we launched our race. So there's some public service in the blood, which I knew growing up. He worked in government, and I heard lots of stories from elders growing up about my grandpa's service. And helping Sikh families also, get to the United States away from religious persecution. And our Sikh faith overall is very rooted in selfless service. One of the pillars of our faith is seva, which means selfless service.
Seva. Okay.
Seva. So you can go to a Gurdwara, whenever they're open, and everyone can eat there for free, and everyone eats on the ground together as a community, whether you're a king or a beggar. That's like the historical significance. One of the pillars and main drivers of our faith and drivers of my values is Sarbat da Pala. It means the welfare of all.
The welfare of all. Okay.
And those values, and being raised as a Sikh American, being born and raised in the United States as a Sikh American, have shaped my career and my values, and my family and my culture and my community is very parallel and synonymous to public service. So that's how, it helped shape my mindset, especially as a young American, seeing all these atrocities by Trump and our federal government, and deciding to step up and work in this field, now run for office.
What would you say to young people from immigrant families who may be interested in serving their community through public office?
Step up, get involved, show up to your county party. I literally walked into the presidential campaign office opening at 17 years old, not knowing, whatever this even meant, right? But then I got my first phone banking experience, and I literally asked for work, and I showed up. I promise you, if you go to your county party or sign up to, volunteer at your local coordinated campaign, there's going to be 30 offices across the state for this year's coordinated campaign. I promise you there's work to do. I promise you there's calls to be made. There's always calls to be made. There are always going to be doors to be knocked. So get involved, step up, sign up for the volunteer opportunity at your local campaign. You're a candidate that inspires you and interests you, right? I'm here as a resource. Reach out to me. You can get my information from Debz, or, follow us on Instagram and DM us. We'll respond. I personally mentor and try to invest in younger Sikh and Indian and kids from all walks of life pursuing these fields. It's kind of non-traditional, right? Coming from some immigrant communities. I was supposed to be a doctor, much to my mom's dismay. I dropped on her in high school. I wanted to be a lawyer. But she believed in me and supported me in that endeavor, and we turned out fine. My sister went to Georgia Tech, supposed to be an engineer at some point. She's a journalist, worked at CNN, and now she's at NBC, and so we turned out fine. And I hope that shows younger kids that there's a path for people who look like us, right? And then younger kids across demographics. So I'm here as a resource, but show up, get involved. I promise you, your local candidate, your state party, your county party, they need the help. So I promise you there's work to do.
So show up and get involved.
Yeah.
Okay. We are now at Zlography lightning round. This is the fun part.
Okay.
I say one word or a sentence and you finish it. Okay?
Okay.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Morning or night?
Night.
Favorite place in District 97?
Oh, I'm going to get in trouble, but Papaleon, it's right next to my house. It's a relatively new Venezuelan spot. So I go there religiously every weekend. I'm
going to ask you about that because I'll be heading there too. Favorite local restaurant?
I'll give you another one then. Fire and Stone Pizzeria in Peachtree Town Center. I believe it's the best pizza in Georgia, and I'm a professional foodie, self-proclaimed professional foodie. I have comparison notes and everything, and very, very strict criteria. But
one book everyone should read.
Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell.
One leader you admire.
I may get into some hot water. I'm going to say President Obama.
Ooh, I do too. 3 words your friends would use to describe you.
It's always a tough question. I would say compassionate. I would say inclusive, or I think they would say charismatic.
Public service means?
Community.
So you have just survived our lightning round. Before we close, I'd like to give you an opportunity to speak directly to the voters. Look into the camera. What message would you like every resident of House District 97 to hear before they cast their ballots in November?
Absolutely. And again, thank you, Deborah, for having me on here. I'm here to represent all of you from all walks of life, from all political parties. At the end of the day, after November 3rd, elections are over. My work it's already started, right? Listening to all of you, what actually matters to you and your family. So please reach out. We respond, via email or calls. I'll call you myself. I've given out my personal cell number to hundreds of doors and thousands of people across the district and our county. What really matters to us is delivering for you. We're running on a platform that puts people first. We haven't taken a single corporate PAC dollar or corporate dollar and business dollar at all in our fundraising and driven our grassroots movement. So please reach out. We'll have a district office once we're sworn in, but online you can find us at Jyot Singh GA across social media platforms, singforga.com. But message us on Instagram, or you can email us at team@singforga.com. And I hope to hear from you guys soon, so we can all fight together for the issues that matter to our families the most.
Do you have a telephone number, or would you like to give them your Instagram? Let them know how else to get in contact with you.
So you can reach us at 404-492-9722, call or text, or you can reach us across social media platforms at Jyot Singh GA across platforms on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Blue Sky, or email us at team@singforga.com, SINGHFORGA.com.
Thank you so much, Jyot.
Thank you, Debs.
Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for sharing your story, your vision, your commitment to serving the people of House District 97. No matter where you stand politically, democracy works best when voters are informed, engaged, and willing to participate. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Zlography. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please like, comment, and subscribe. Share this episode with your family, friends, and neighbors. Your support helps us to continue to bring in meaningful conversations that educate, inform, and empower citizens. See you next week.